Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have another box full of figures here to unbox with you guys, because it was another one of those moments where I was just kind of browsing websites like eBay and Mercari and stuff, and I actually believe I found this one. I think it was on Mercari. See, I am so forgetful, I forget everything, but I'm pretty sure it was on Mercari. But it could have been eBay, who knows, I forget things all the time. But all I knew was that there was a figure that was included in this box that I really wanted. As usual, it ends up being just like one figure that I see that I'm like, oh, I really wanted that figure for a long time. It's kind of hard to find. And for you guys, it's probably not even that appealing of a figure, but it's something that was just kind of on my want list for a long time, and it's a really hard figure to come by. So when I had seen it on there, I instantly bought the the box of figures. And the majority of the stuff in here probably isn't going to be very impressive, and there's some stuff in here I'm probably also not even aware of is in here, but I'm really excited to actually have this figure finally in my collection. So let's go ahead and bring this stuff in. I think I paid like $17 or $18 maybe for all of this, which it probably wasn't really worth it to get the figure I wanted, but at the same time, I'm happy about it. So the very first one we have is a really cheap Stegosaurus, and this seems to be something that happens quite often whenever you buy these lots online. You're bound to end up with a bunch of really cheap, kind of not so great dinosaur figures. So to start the box off, we have one of those. This one's actually kind of neat looking. So this one's a random sauropod of some kind who's very bright. We're going to try to get the brightness off of him a little bit. There we go. And although he's not very good looking as far as the sculpt goes, he's got a very awkward looking appearance to his back. In fact, it almost looks like he is defecating, like he's lifting his tail up to maybe, you know, let something go. But you can see that the tail is dragging on the ground, so he's got that kind of vintage-looking sauropod-like pose to him. So I kind of like him for that aspect, and the head sculpt looks pretty decent, but he's at the same time not a really good figure either. So we're kind of off to a bad start as far as this box goes. And then here's one that's pretty random to be in here. This is not going to stand because I don't have his legs in a good spot. You probably can already tell what this is if you are familiar with the figure. This is the Light and Sound Terabibatat Ceratosaurus, which I do already have this figure, and I really honestly wasn't looking to get a second, but now that he's here, you know, my son can have a Light and Sound Terabibatat Ceratosaurus now in his collection. I'm sure he'd be psyched to have it, because that is something that I tend to often do when I get, like, you know, quite a few figures. I'll usually pass some down to him, and he can continue to grow his collection as well. But it's definitely not the best Ceratosaurus ever. He's kind of a fun Ceratosaurus, but anytime I can get a Terabibatat figure, I guess it's not a bad thing, even if he's not the best figure from them. And then we've got this very interesting little Stegosaurus. I don't know if I've ever seen this one. I've seen figures similar to this as far as like the pose and everything goes, but I don't remember that kind of grumpy face that he has on him. He's actually kind of funny. He has some really nice detail to him. Like if you look at the skin texture, that's pretty impressively well done. Obviously not very good as far as a Stegosaurus goes. The plates are far too far apart and just look kind of silly. But the Stegosaurus in general actually is completely littered with inaccuracies, but he's still kind of highly detailed. Not the worst thing for sure. And then we've got another really cheap dino figure, as we have some sort of a really horrible looking Brachiosaurus. I can't even say that this one's like, oh, he's a cheap figure, but he's okay looking. No, he just looks really crummy in general. Not a good figure at all. Then there is this one. This one is super weird looking. This is quite the head scratcher. I don't know what dinosaur this is meant to be. I have just zero ideas at all as far as this one goes. He's an interesting figure for sure, and I like the, you know, the like osteoderm like appearance down the side of him, but I don't have even the slightest idea who that is supposed to be. And then this figure I find all the time at Walmart. I've seen this one tons of times. He's actually really like well made, like very nice high quality Tyrannosaurus figure. I think Adventure Force might be the ones behind this figure, but he's just not a good sculpt. Like his tail is super small, but I always kind of liked the figure due to the similarities in the head sculpt to the Tyrannosaurus from The Last Dinosaur. If you guys have seen that movie, awesome, really bad old dinosaur movie, and he has a very strong resemblance to that dinosaur. I've been wanting to kind of try to resculpt a longer tail because the Rex in that movie has a super long tail, and maybe give it a similar paint scheme to the last dinosaur T-Rex. I actually already have one of these guys that I bought from Walmart, primered and everything to create that dinosaur, but I just haven't gone through with trying it yet. But he's kind of a fun Tyrannosaurus, especially from a vintage standpoint. He looks like a T-Rex you would have seen in like a movie in the 60s or 70s, like a guy in a suit Tyrannosaurus type of a figure. And then there are actually quite a few figures in here that we are very familiar with, or at least you should be if you've been watching my channel for a long time, or if you shop at Walmart, because this is one of the very cheap Aaa Allosaurus figures that you see right here. Obviously a very strong and striking resemblance to the Aaa Allosaurus, which I don't entirely know if that's actually bootlegged from him or just, was the inspiration. But there's also the Mosasaurus in here as well, and the Carnotaurus, which is clearly a Schleich knockoff, and I just kicked the Mosasaurus in the face. There's also the Pteranodon, which I actually do quite like this figure. I have repainted all of these figures at some point and made them look a little bit better because they actually have some really nicely detailed sculpts on them. And then we, of course, have the Spinosaurus, which is clearly a Papo bootleg as well. So some pretty fun Boley figures in here. And then speaking of bootlegs, we've got a bootleg for sure, as we have a Schleich Tyrannosaurus bootleg. I would say that this figure and the Papo T-Rex are potentially the two most bootlegged figures on the planet. Like, it is disgusting how many times these figures have been bootlegged. He's got a try me button. I wonder if he works. Nope, unfortunately he doesn't work, but that is not a good figure by any means. And the original Schleich Rex was pretty fun, but that thing is just ugly right there. So we're just about at the end of the box already. Unfortunately, this wasn't a huge box of figures. We've also got this old school Dilophosaurus, which he's kind of half fun but half weird looking. He's got a really cool vintage Dilophosaurus look though, so I will give him credit for that. And then the final two figures, one of which I really love, and the other one I didn't have prior to this, but one of which is the Aaa Allosaurus, aka potentially Tyrannosaurus, because he's got two fingers, but I believe he's labeled as an Allosaurus. Let's look at the underside here. I'm pretty sure, yes, he is labeled as an Allosaurus. So a little bit of confusion on the part of AAA, but this is a figure that I actually really, really love, and I do already have this one. This one's actually got a little chip off the end of his tail, but he's in good shape other than the chip on the tail for the most part. But that's a fun little addition to this set that, I am actually a big fan of that figure. And then the final figure, which is the entire reason that I bought this box, and again, you guys are going to be severely underwhelmed by this, but it is the National Geographic Wildlife Wow Iguanodon. Even though it absolutely is missing the most iconic area of Iguanodon, it does not have that trademark, thumb claw type deal going on there. So I think it makes more of like a nice Fukusaurus or something like that as opposed to an Iguanodon. But this is a figure that I have been just searching for so long because I didn't really get into the National Geographic figures, the Wildlife Wow figures, until most of them were, I don't know if they're discontinued or just hard to find, but they're really tricky to get a hold of. And this one was one that just always drew me in, and I always really wanted to get a hold of it because I felt like that head sculpt is gorgeous, the paint scheme is really nice and flashy, and the sculpt in general is quite nicely detailed. Again, it is labeled as an Iguanodon, which is weird that National Geographic would sell their figures like this because they're always so insanely inaccurate continuously. Like, there is not, as far as I can recall, a single National Geographic Wildlife Wow figure that is accurate, and they're sold by National Geographic, which is hilarious to me. But this one, again, I feel like makes a pretty fun-looking Fukusaurus, and the sculpt was beautiful enough that I've been just kind of searching for it for literally years at this point, and every time one seems to pop up on like eBay or somewhere, I end up missing it. So I was really psyched to see this one included in this set. And again, as soon as I saw it, I've been looking for it for so long that I just instantly purchased this. So another fun lot of figures for, I think, like 16, 17 bucks. So I didn't get the best deal, that's for sure. There's a lot of stuff in here that absolutely was not worth purchasing, but I did get a nice Aaa Allosaurus with a chipped tail, and of course the Wildlife Wow Iguanodon kind of dinosaur, sort of, potentially. Claims it's an Iguanodon, but it's certainly not. Not really much else that's amazing in here other than that, but still, totally worth it just for this figure alone. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.